Welcome to Big Talk, live on Global Television. My name is Adikat Michael, your host. A pleasure to have you tune in and joining us on the program tonight. There are a whole lot of concern, majorly in the country, in respect to how the citizens are faring at the state of the economy. And on the heels of the economic hardship, many civil servants at the federal, state, and local government areas now go to work twice or three times in a week to cut down the cost of transportation, just as report has been gathered. The cost of living has risen in the last 1 year due to several economic policies of the government, most especially from the removal of the fuel subsidy. They have been doing all of that in order to save costs in the face of the stagnant salaries and non-fully implementation of the new minimum wage. They have actually resorted to their self-help. Report has also gathered that Lagos, Ogun, Osun government respectively have approved two-day work from home policy for junior civil servants, while those on the senior cadre were given just a day. Tonight on the program, joining us to discuss how the impact of the economy is on the life of workers in the country is the first TUC President, Tommy Etim. Thanks so much, comrade, for joining us on the program tonight.
Thank you very much, Edika.
Yes, we've seen Osun, Governor Adeleke just recently and other states saying, oh, we understand things are hard. Workers, can you come to work 2 times in a day? So is that the way to go in view of, making commitment of the workers and as well as also the challenges being that is confronting the many workers in the country?
Well, every administration have their own strategy, but to me, it is not the best. Because when you look at productivity, it's not just measured by the input-output, but also the environment of which you have created. The productive environment have to be very conducive. For coming into a deliberate policy to say that workers should come 2 or 3 days in a week to cut costs of transportation, to me, I feel that that is not the best way to go. Because if government is deliberate in their attempts, there will be that need, to have a transportation system where he can even make it free for workers, and that will help instead of telling the workers to sit at home and then maybe doing telework or maybe doing e-work and so on. If even with the e-work, how many of these homes have the electricity to go about it? How many of these workers have a laptop to go about it? So I feel that the decision of the state government is not even helping the worker, because it will also force the workers to be more idle. There's something we call social interaction in the office that also ginger productivity, where you see the effort of your colleagues putting in, you'll be tempted to put in. So denying the workers, they going to their duty posts,
because of the economic hardship.
Because of the economic hardship, is an ill wind that will blow the government no good. Because no matter how, you cannot measure productivity, staying at home. Nigeria is not a developed climate that we can set all these facilities. We need the internet, the data also work. No, government need to rethink that policy and create an enabling productive environment to ensure that there's a transportation system where the workers can go to work, even at FOC. That will help. Where, the student of the workers will also go to school, free. See, these are strategy which government need to put in place, not to say stay at home and then at the end they'll say we are still paying workers when they're staying at home. No. That is not a way to be productive.
Those are probably viewers may want to know the update on how far with the minimum wage, because I know that you were part of the delegation that visited the president, and after the negotiation, you agreed at 70,000. And just before all of these negotiations, from the statement we gathered, that there was certain level of understanding on how the federal government would not in any way increase the pump price of petrol to what we are seeing now, which we're going to come to that, but react to the issues of minimum wage. How far the implementation? Why is it taking time after all of that proceedings?
You know that one thing is to get the National Minimum Wage Act signed into law by the Mr. President. That is another step. The whole common is that thereafter, the Joint Public Service Negotiating Council will meet and then discuss the consequential adjustment, which will now help in grading the workers according to their grade level and steps. And that was just concluded, I think, last week. You know, and just yesterday, the Salary, Income and Wages Commission released implementation template duly signed by the chairman. I think that is the step to go. Don't forget, other state governors before now, like Adamawa and others, have already started the implementation. And in one of my discussions in NTI, I said that was well good, but it was not a proper step, because you must allow the template for implementation, to be out. Now the template of implementation is out. There is no moral justification for any state or the private sector to stop, or delay in the implementation of the national minimum wage. So I want to believe that that was why it was inches on the delay. But now that it's out, and I'm also very convinced that even the federal government will begin the payment this month.
Is it true that some state cannot pay minimum wage? Because we've seen argument that if Lagos can pay, if this other state can pay, how about other states that are receiving low income? Is it possible that some state cannot pay?
Don't forget, with the removal of oil subsidy, a lot of money is given to the states.
So their allocations have increased?
Certainly. So I don't want to toe the line of saying some state cannot pay. Because when some people were saying even the 30,000 naira, they were not able to pay. That was then. No sane government with the socioeconomic challenges will stop or will deny the workers their right. Don't forget, salary is a right. It's not a privilege. So that, for us, is not something to negotiate, because of course the Act also have a penalty for those who will act otherwise.
The Labour, when NNPC had increased the petrol, had said, government, you've betrayed our agreement. And it looks as if in one way or the other, why minimum wage wasn't raised to 250,000 was in consideration of the fact that fuel will remain as at 618 as it was. You are aware that many are buying fuel as high as 1,000 naira. I've seen some states where they are selling as 2,000 naira, and all of those multiplications in the petroleum prices. We are concerned about if at that 70,000 you had agreed that fuel should be 618. Does it therefore mean that there's a push you return back for another negotiation of minimum wage now that fuel is now over 900, and from what NNPC and Dangote are saying, it might get to 1,000 naira?
Well, to me, maybe it's a matter of interpretation. I've never heard that to me, never had that aspect of if minimum wage remain 250, there won't be any increase in them. Because when we look at it strategically, when we met with Mr. President, the first meeting, agreed that he gave us what the market prices, in terms of PMS, are around, our neighboring countries, and he asked us to even offer to send us on the spot assessment, but we've considered that as economic waste. But when we came back the second day, we didn't want to dwell into that. We went straight on the business of the minimum wage, which Mr. President graciously made it 70. So we didn't go into allowing this, because come to think of it, it wasn't a forum to renegotiate the minimum wage, so that wouldn't have been a condition precedent, But be that as it may, with the advent of this Petroleum Industry Act, you find out that the pricing of PMS was left for market forces to determine. I think we don't need to dwell on that again, because government has come out specifically and explicitly that the market force need to. I think the only challenges we have was the removal of the fuel subsidy and the floating of our naira, which, because whatever you want to talk of when it comes to petroleum has to do with foreign exchange. And when the foreign exchange is high, of course, you know that the pricing will go up. We are still on the verge of getting the policy right, So for us, government before now will have, taken a bold step to come out with strategy, that will caution the negative impact of the removal of resource. But be that as it may, it shouldn't be a blame game. It is not even too late for government, to adjust this. Of course, that the Minister of Petroleum is Mr. President. And perhaps that may have been an intervention, when he intervened that the NNPC should sell, crude in naira to Dangote refinery. But what is more worrisome is the politics between Dangote refinery and NNPC Limited. And NNPC, for many years, you have not been able to rehabilitate a refinery. And Dangote refinery comes on force to see how I can, caution, and you are now detecting that you are going to buy and then sell it to independent marketers. I mean, something is worrisome, and maybe someone is economical with the truth, or is denying a Nigerian a relief, by virtue of Dangote refinery. So we need to, and Mr. President need to come out with that and unravel the cabal that is surrounding the NNPC Limited, that is frustrating the effort of individual. Because if Dangote is coming in as business, if as a business, nobody can detect, because he knows what is good, he's buying in and so on. So that alone will be able to solve the problem. And then let NNPC concentrate and make the refineries of Nigeria work and open the space. I think that would be a better way to go than detecting to Dangote, the pricing mechanism. It is unfair.
I mean, because it's more worrisome when we understand that petroleum sector controls our economy, and majorly the many problems we are facing in the country today. You saw the protest last month where people were saying we are hungry. They hated the protest, and there are even indications that they may do same again, even when government have said no. Some person are trying to take advantage of that. But a concern in the petroleum, the rising cost for even Dangote itself, because many were jubilating that now we have Dangote refinery. It seems we are now in the better days. But the hope of Nigerians, have been dashed out in the excess of how the NNPC interpretation and on the other end, turning marketers and distributors of the Dangote product. And the other end, Dangote is actually, not also being considerate to what we have pressing home on ground. So it looks that the 1,000 naira price at the fuel we have right now at 900, 895 and thereabout is just getting static and maybe, increase in a moment from now.
Let me say, some states are even selling at 1,000,
1,600.
The problem is the foundation of NNPC Limited. The reason why I'm saying so is that when the foundation is destroyed, what can the righteous do? The Minister of Petroleum need to put a searchlight on NNPC Limited.
Do you feel that Mr. President is not aware of all what is going on? Because there are those that will tell you, it looks that the President wasn't aware that they will increase the fuel from 618 to the new price we have today. Does it look so?
That to me will be an indictment of the President. Because if the President is a Minister of Petroleum and is not aware, no, I don't think so. Mr. President would not even accept the fact that he's not aware. He's fully aware. But you see, it's either Mr. President is half faith with what is happening there, or is also taking time to see how to uproot those. Because you may think that the president is calm. This is a man who have led several protests, and he knows what is going on because he's been there. So I want to believe that Mr. President is taking his time, and it will not be too long. There will be a searchlight on NNPC Limited because Nigerians are suffering. The oil is the mainstay of the economy. As we speak today, the hope that Dangote refinery will come to salvage the situation is almost being frustrated. And by who? By NNPC Limited. So for us to get it right, there must be a searchlight on NNPC Limited. Otherwise, we'll just be talking. And so let government walk the talk. The Petroleum Industry Act has given a leeway to go. Fine. Mr. President must apply the willpower to ensure that things work. Don't forget, we were told that from July, in fact from April, July, August, that Port Harcourt refinery will start working. Even they said it will start from September.
Many date announcements.
So now, I don't know who to trust. And we are worried that our concern is that let the right thing be done. Because with Dangote refinery coming in, if they are given the conducive market to operate in good pricing, another private company can also come to assist Dangote, and that will enable the price of PMAs, to interplay with the market force. But where you want to monopolize it, it therefore means that you can just wake up one day that fuel costs 2,000. Now nobody will worry. So this is an issue that Mr. President should throw his hat on the ring to ensure that it comes to rescue Nigerian.
Are NNPC limiting IPMAN from lifting the product from Dangote? From all your gatherings?
The rigmaroling and the politics therein is very tasking. And nobody knows who is telling us the truth. But what we are saying...
But what it ought to be...
Allow the independent marketers to live. And then say, but not for you to live and sell to be a middleman where we can have free entry and exit in a business environment.
Do they want to make profit?
If you make profit, will you kill the economy because of profiteering? A lot of taxation has already taken the economy to a level where, because if you pay tax, you now know that what you are paying the tax for, you can see. You can wake up to see that yes, you are paying heavily for electricity, and electricity is constant, not the one they give to by the time you are waking up, they have taken it as a business concern. You are running in diesel. No now. Because when people talk about other climb is that this thing work, and they know how these things work. So if you are paying tax knowing very well that they are using it for infrastructure that will benefit you. So you'll be happy to do it. This fuel, okay, allow the fuel. Now, even with the high cost, you still see a lot of queues in the filling station. Why?
The product seems not to still be available.
That is it. But if you allow Dangote now to flood the market with the product, there may be that tendency that some filling station will want turnover, not even the profit, because turnover will give you more profit than even when you fix it.
So you feel there are no sincerity in all of these transactions between NNPC and Dangote?
Seriously, there's no sincerity. There's no sincerity. And I want the public to know that there's no sincerity. Today, Dangote Refinery will say one thing. Tomorrow, NNPC Limited will say another thing. That's supposed not to be. Communication. Let they come out and tell the entire public what is the problem. It's just like the removal of fuel subsidy. You see people say, government is still paying. Some element in the government will say, government is not paying. But I and you know that government indirectly still paying subsidy on fuel. So that is the truth.
I mean, because prior to the issues on all of that, crude was exported, refined, and then being back to the country to be sold. And we are concerned about, I mean, the other time we heard the president saying, NNPC sell the crude, in Naira to Dangote. So it was all indication that the president is trying to, bring Naira to the transaction of the petroleum. But it looks that there are still interpretation of a dollar rating in the last press statement from NNPC we still saw dollar figures. And Nigerians are saying the president seems to gave the order that the crude, be sold to you at the Naira. Why are we still having, dollar in the interpretation of our economy today?
You know what? Until the cabal, like Dangote said, that the cabal in the oil sector is even more stronger and fuzzy than those of the drugs. I quote him.
Is it true? Does it look that way?
But you have seen the demonstration. So that is convincing. And of course, you see, when a pope or catechist is telling you about Holy Communion, he means he knows it. Dangote knows what he's talking about. I'm not a professional in that field, but to have come from him, that shows you that he knows what he's talking about.
Does it look like we should distance him from me? Because there are those that are also alleging that he's also monopolizing, he's trying to monopolize the sector. He has monopolized cement, the other sector he has ventured into, and it looks that he's also interested about monopolizing the petroleum.
He's a businessman. He never stopped others from coming in. If others have the way without, let them come in.
So we need that, we need that competition.
We need that competition. Like what you are seeing in the telecom industry today. We need that competition. Even though the telecom industry has eaten a lot of funds from people and even made them. But because it is not seen, people don't know. Because some people in a month can spend 30,000 naira to load data, but that would not make noise. What make noise is what they see. Because this one is for talking. It was then that talk was cheap, but now talk is not cheap. So nobody will know about that. But because fueling and the PMS is an engine that all the economy, it becomes very obvious. Because now a woman from the local farm that brings out the products and he want to go to the market, is with the high cost of fuel, the transportation is high. So, in a nutshell, it will add the cost of transportation to the marginal cost of the product and then determine the unit cost of that in the market. So, it becomes very expensive. And that is why it is the oil issue there. And when government talk about this CNG, vehicle and buses and so on, if government have said this ab initio, as a condition precedent for removal of the fuel subsidy, nobody will complain, because by now they will have phased out the PMS. Maybe it will have been in a very low, those who have the capacity to do, but the transport aspect of it will have been taken care of by CNG. A lot of things will have crashed. A price of food items in the market will have crashed, because what lead to the cost of high cost of food items is nothing but high cost of transportation. But because Mr. President did not look at the books before he announced the removal, I don't also want to blame Mr. President, because sometimes if you waste time to look at the books, the same cabal will surround you. And in the process of taking a critical decision, you might have lost guard, But even at that, these things will have been put in place, technically, before Mr. President bust the announcement of the removal. And it shouldn't have been at the same time to float the Naira. Because the floating of our Naira
And also removing subsidy.
And removing subsidy was like, you know, two important aspects of the economy.
But do we need those two things?
Of course. You see, life cannot survive in isolation. It cannot survive because a lot of people are paying their children's school fees for those who have the capacity in dollars. A lot of businesses are under importation with dollars. So, like the oil sector you are talking about, every other component is in dollars. So, automatically, like today now, you see how much the dollar is, you know.
1,600.
More than that. So putting all this, he now weakened the positive interplay of the market forces. And that affects the economy positively. And it makes the worker, you know, to be earning cap, begging for survival. No matter how much you pay the worker now. That's survive. Don't also forget, school has just resumed. A lot of people have not even attempted to pay the children's school fees. Whereas if government have created free and compulsory education from primary to at least first degree, and then make masters higher and so on, you will know that a lot of people will be at peace. And people will be happy working in the economy, knowing very well that the economy is taking care of their basic need. You know, so these are the...
When government come out to say that recession is globally, that it's not just peculiar to Nigeria, and on the other hand, that Nigeria to exercise patience, that things are going to get better. And the question is, at what cost should we make these sacrifices? We've seen Mr. President over times appealing even to your workers, to Nigerians, to exercise patience. That the recession is a global event.
My brother, let me tell you the fact. At least I'm not less than 50. But I can tell you, since I was born, government is used to baking. That thing will get better. Remember, that was the same story Babangida told us in 1986 when he introduced structural adjustment program. He said it's the best thing that will happen to Nigeria. And that was the beginning of Nigerian problem. Borrowing wrong policy from the World Bank. These are centrifugal forces and centripetal forces that dictate. You see what is happening in Kenya. They have borrowed to the point that they don't even know again. So, if government come up with a wrong policy, there is no way they can have economic prosperity. There's a far cry today for government to cut the cost of governance. But how would they cut it? When you see the routine and a lot of pressure on the politicians from their fellow friends, constituencies, and allied, to do the impossible. Until the followers also reason that these people went there to represent us, but not going there to amass wealth, it becomes very difficult. Government will continue to beg because the politicians are also mounting pressure on the economy. The friends of the politician are mounting pressure, and there's already a standby pressure on the economy because of the amount of money borrowed. How can you borrow money and share? And you think there could be economic prosperity? It cannot. Look at the $80 million from the World Bank and given out as a social safety net. You can only borrow money and put in a productive venture where there is a return on investment, but not to borrow money and give. If you borrow money and dash out, how will you recoup to pay interest?
So you feel the constitution...
When you look at how much is expended in the flood episode in Borno State.
Over 12 billion have been donated.
If they have taken that money to control that dam, would that happen?
And there were warning signals.
Several warning signals. Let's tell ourselves the truth. Government is seen as a reactive government instead of being proactive. Let's tell ourselves the truth. If with all this money they are giving, whether some are promising not, whether they are going to give, because some politicians are known to making pronouncement, but to redeem those promises may be another story for another day. So if all this money have been mopped to save it, even those people that are living in those huts and shanties, they will have given them estates of at least two bedrooms, comfortably built. Calculate the money. But those who were in charge of that dam should be held responsible until government holds some contractors or some notable individual accounts. You can see what the former governor of Kogi is doing. Instead of going to answer question, he'll be jumping and become a handbag to the governor, going where that is not how the economy will work.
So governors are not making commitment to making things
at all. At all. Some, not all, some.
Because if you look at when the appeals that we should exercise patience and bear with them, Nigerians are saying that probably...
It is because of all this they have seen that makes Nigerians to lose confidence. It is all because they have seen it all. They have seen it all. They have seen the way some of the governors are going about it. All the blame, they bring it to Mr. President. Most of them collect the Paris Club fund and then put in the bank, generate interest. They didn't want to act when it's supposed to, when the money had value. They get back the money when value have already been eroded. Then you are telling you to be exercise patient because you know the trust deficit is already accumulated. So it makes it very difficult for anybody to say, well, government has spoken. Until government walk the talk, it becomes very difficult for people to believe the government.
All right, everyone, we just have to go on a very quick break right away. And once we return from the break, we're finalizing a discussion on the impact of the state of the economy, because there should be a way out of it. We've seen the Minister of Information earlier today holding a World Press Conference and addressing the country in respect to the Independence Day. But there are questions to our democracy, there are questions to our independence. Are we entirely free? Is our economy free? These are the questions and Nigerians are seeking answers from the government. So tonight, we'll finalize that very shortly after this break. Please stay with us. Many thanks for still stay with us. I still have the first Deputy President of Trade Union Congress, Comrade Tommy Tim. Thanks so much for still stay with us and your insight. We, of course, are trying to look at the way forward because we've seen ministers have been in office for some of them for a year now. We've also get to the confirmation that the president is trying to reshuffle the cabinet. And from all indications, the Nigerians were expecting that, work ought to have been done. There should have been results by now for a government that started on the note of how it hits the ground running. And are still looking at, even some of the workers and many Nigerians are still finding it difficult to trace. They have held a World Press Conference today insisting on what the administration is doing. Do you feel by justification that their best is enough?
Well, there's no perfect government anywhere. And in policy that can rescue a depressed economy, it will take some time. That I know. There's what we call gestation period.
Do you subscribe that they inherited a bad economy?
The fact remains that it is the same party. So if they say they inherited a bad economy, it therefore means that they are indicting their party and at the same time the party ideology in terms of those manifestos of which they gave. Believing that the government will do X, Y, Z, to take Nigeria out of the wood. But even at that, two persons cannot be the same in terms of their leadership quality and style. Maybe Mr. President, who was the then national leader of the party, while sitting at the sideline, saw what former Mr. President did not see. One thing is, spectator is very good in seeing the loopholes of how the player will have played and score. But another thing is that when the spectator is given opportunity to enter the field and play, he will even make worse mistakes. So that is what is playing out. Because Mr. President, from the sideline, saw the loophole. Now Mr. President is in the saddle. And a lot of people surrounding the president may not allow Mr. President to fill in the gap from what he saw. So I'm also very happy that the president, from the report, is considering a cabinet reshuffle.
Do you feel these ones have not lived
I,
to expectations?
I must tell you, some of the ministers don't have business being there.
Over a good number, the highest number.
They don't have the business being there. But it's also good because Mr. President have to settle it politically. I want to believe that Mr. President will now come in to bring in those who have experience on economy and the strategy. Because that was for political, or for politicians and political. But the next phase, I feel that Mr. President will bring in experts, even within and outside, who are Nigerian-driven, who understand how things work, to help in fixing some of the areas. You cannot use those people who were with you in 1999, and you think that they can still fit into 21st century.
They said they built Lagos. They also have in the economy of Lagos as one of the best.
Let me tell you. Lagos is not Nigeria. Yes, it's good that he set a template. But if he has set that template and subsequent governors didn't play a part positively, he wouldn't have been a successful leader of men and material. No. Today, as we speak, even in Lagos, it is not a huru. So Nigeria must understand that fact. So Mr. President knows this. It's not about bringing in those you know. You may not know them, but follow the antecedent of these people. From the antecedent, you'll be able to know that XYZ can do better in this direction. And let there be. It is even better than having someone who was the president of the country and have people to run with him for 8 years. Ministers were staying for 8 years. No, let other people come, test their capacity and capability. You get the difference. Rather than, because some people will say just 1 year. In fact, even 6 months, you can change a minister. That makes you a leader. For instance, you have a pilot who cannot fly you want to remain? No.
How about some of them that are arguing that they needed to stay and learn and probably have experience on the road before they could be able to function?
You don't need to learn on the job as a minister. You don't need to learn. Why are you a minister? Because already you have directors, you have permanent secretary, you have director general. It's you to come out with your own blueprints in line with the Renew Hope agenda of Mr. President and keep the ground running. No. The essence of going to school is to apply. It's easy for you to apply. You can't say, the first thing a minister does, when he comes in, all the directors will brief the minister on what the department is doing. Within the briefing, he discovers gap. He jot down the gap. Once those gaps are jotted down, he now look at it. He now look at Mr. President Renew Hope agenda, what will fit in. After the briefing of the directors, the departments, the permanent secretaries, then maybe the union leaders. The union leaders will be able to give you expose. A very smart minister will not even allow the director of human resources to be around or permanent secretary to be around when the union will be briefing, because they will have the floor. The union will have opportunity to open up things they will pretend in the presence of the permanent secretary or director of human resources. And the minister will have the foreknowledge of what he said to do. And then do what they call, he now organize, a retreat, and then show them his direction in line with the Renew Hope agenda. By so doing, everybody will walk the talk. Everybody know they are in business that is not as business as usual. So rather than doing jamboree.
Do we see that number? Because when the government is saying cost of governance, there are those that will tell you, we're having the highest number of ministers in this administration. We did not need the number. We just need a few people who knows the job and they can put the things to work.
My dear brother, I'm one of those that said that provision in the Constitution that said that each state with a minister should be amended. The reason is that it is not compulsory that you have a minister of state. No. Because there's going to be conflict of interest. Now, in a ministry, you have directors that mount the department. And if you have agencies parastatal from the ministry, you have director general. And you now have accounting officer, which is the permanent secretary. And you are having a minister of state, and you are having a full-fledged minister. Doing what? Doing what? What is the role of minister of state? Because all them, they will enjoy the paraphernalia of office. Don't also forget, they are all of the same ranking, because they attain the Federal Executive Council. If you are buying a vehicle for minister, you must buy a vehicle for minister of state. And implementation of the budget will be done by so definitely there will be conflict of interest. Meanwhile, those who are doing the jobs are the directors and the permanent secretary. Because these are the implementers of government policy. So if you have a minister that should pretend over a ministry, it's more than enough to drive your policy direction, instead of going into minister of state, minister of state. No, how large is an agency? How large is a ministry? A ministry that also have director generals who are also being overseen by a department. When things work, a director general in the parastatal is like a deputy director in the core service, in the core ministry. When things work, a director general cannot go to see the minister. He goes to see the director and then see the permanent secretary. I have worked for 35 years and retired honorably. So I know what I'm talking about. I know what I'm talking about.
So the number is not really necessary.
It's not necessary. It's not necessary. We need to cut the cost of governance. If you remove a minister of state, you have saved at least 30% of the funding that goes into that agency, which can be used for something more productive. Because his constituency will be looking for him. I have minister. His state will be looking for him. We have minister. His family will be looking for him. We have minister. His friend will be looking for him. We have to, and they will be mounting pressure on contracts. And if he doesn't have any contract, they attack him as a bad minister.
All right, comrade, let me take you to the grassroots. You know, we've seen the president boasting of the local government autonomy, financial autonomy he has facilitated for the local government. What is your assessment about the recent local government elections that have been conducted? Because there are those that will argue with you that without a proper election for the people to elect at the local government, in one way or the other, you're still taking the funds that you probably want the local government to take charge of developing their grassroots back to the hands of the governors.
Let me tell you for free. If there's one thing the president has put on the table today, is the autonomy of the local government. I pray it works out the way Mr. President wanted. But you see, there's what we call influence of the leader. Whether from the back door or front door, Mr. President have gotten it. I salute his dexterity in that regard. But Mr. President need to go further to allow the law enforcement agencies and, of course, those who are involved in attacking those who want to cut corner with the local government funds to be on guard, like the EFCC, ICPC. That will help. Because don't forget, the local government chairman, they are still answerable to the governor, directly or indirectly, because they are in the domain in the state. But if they get it right, there will be a lot. All this insecurity come from a local government, come from villages.
It's local.
It's local. It's local. And that will quell a lot of it. Because in those days we were younger, the local government will do culvert, they will clear roads, they do markets, which are statutory things to do, and renovate schools within their domain and so on. And those funds generated will also serve as empowerment, But where there are conflict of the state will come to collect revenue where local government is supposed to collect revenue. There's conflict. So Mr. President have done it well in that direction. And they need to also, if the local government don't conduct election, you don't need, there's no need to send money to caretaker. Warehouse the money. When they conduct, you release to them so that you can monitor the expenditure. And release the anti-corruption agencies on them. Don't allow one anti-corruption to remain in a local government for 10 years. Rotate them. Rotate them. That will be a guide that if you do otherwise, we are watching. Like the slogan of EFCC,
All right, finally tonight, what is the hope of Nigerians moving forward? Because by all indication, some person will tell you that they are frustrated in the state of the country right now. They probably do not know where their next meal is coming from. And there are those that are also resorting to otherwise. What then do you feel that out of all of the context of the problem we are facing today, the hopes of Nigerians should be hanged on to?
Well, you know, Rome, they said, was not built in a day. I'm one of the hardened person that believe in my country, Nigeria. I have opportunities to do what they call jackpot.
Jackpot. It's not the way forward.
I'm even the one telling my friends who are there, they better come home. Because as they remain there thinking that those economy is good, one day their children will say they want to come back home. And they may come back to Nigeria without a roof over their head. No matter how conducive a strange land is, it cannot be better than your home. It can never be. Nigeria is a country that we need to believe in. When you look at the second stanza of the national anthem, though tribe and tongue may differ, in brotherhood we stand, I value it like any other thing. I value it because, like me, I grew up in the Yoruba land. I went to Islamic school and Saturday as a Christian, and that culture and intermix have burdened me where I am today. And majority of my friends are so for anybody to contemplate, I'm tired of this country. No, first and foremost, God knows why He puts you here. He puts you to bring a change. You must be here to join hand to salvage this country. There is socio-economic prosperity for Nigeria. All what we need good leadership and good followership.
Good leadership and good followership. Thanks so much, Comrade Tommy Etim, the first Deputy President of the Trade Union Congress. Thanks so much for joining us tonight on Big Talk.
Thank you.
Of course, that's where we draw the curtain and wrap it up on the show tonight. And looking forward again, having more discuss in tracking some of the developments of the country and what steps government are taking in solving the many problems that is confronting this country. And just as my guest said, the followers also have a role to play. You and I have a role to play to make Nigeria succeed and always. My name is Deacon Michael. See you tomorrow.